What is the first gaming console you got? NES. Atari 2600. PS2. Sega Mega Drive. Any Earthworm Jim fans here? I'm old Commodore 64. Sega Master System. NES. The yellow Nintendo Game Boy Color. With matching Pokémon Yellow version. N64. Sega Genesis. Sega Master System with inbuilt Alex the Kid. Pong. Intellivision. 1981-ish. PS4. SNES. ColecoVision. Back when the cool kids had Ataris and Commodore 64s. Atari. Wii U. My parents had an Atari when I was little. We got a Nintendo when I was in first grade. And a Super Nintendo around the time Donkey Kong Country came out. But the first system I ever got, with my own money, was a PS1 so I could play FF7. We'll be getting PS5. I have never experienced a console until this year and I was in love from the first sight. My mom's N64. N64 baby. A Coleco Gemini. It was an Atari 2600 clone introduced to the market in 1983. It played both Atari games and Coleco games. Sigh. Asterisk I guess someone has to call out the Magnavox Odyssey, and today that's me. ColecoVision. Back when the cool kids had Ataris and Commodore 64s. Oof NES. Vectrex. GameCube. My first one was DS. But it might have been a Game Boy, although I'm not sure my memories of using one are real. The oldest console was a Nintendo 64. GameCube. I had older brothers and older cousins. My middle brother would always get me into things. The first time we ever played a game together was on the PS2 hooked up in the car and we played on a tiny screen. We would do this on road trips to visit our family. I miss it. PS1, Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. I've got a few firsts. My mom had a couple of systems I could play on when I was 3 to 4 years old. Those being an SNES and Sega Genesis. One day, my dad came rushing home from work after purchasing a PS1 with Tekken 2 and Twisted Metal 2. That changed my life with gaming. But that was still a family system. The first system I ever had that was mine alone was the Game Boy Color. Like a lot of people, Pokémon Blue was my life for a long time. The first system I ever saved up for and really worked to purchase on my own was the Wii. Which is still a fun little story to tell. My family owned a PS2 and an N64, so those were first I played on. My very first console I personally owned was an N64 my brother and sister bought for me for my birthday. Nintendo DS, Atari 2600, Game Boy Color, transparent purple, with Pokémon Red or Blue. PS1. I got a PlayStation 1 when I was about 5 years old. My first game was Tom and Jerry and, to this day, it's still one of the most violent video games I've ever played. PS2. Atari 2600. Still own it with 16 games. My kids love it now. Lol. I have vague memories of an Atari and ColecoVision when I was really young. Approximately 800 years ago. At least that's what it feels like. But I played a NES and Sega Genesis growing up. Intellivision. Mega Drive 2. Too bad it doesn't work anymore. GameCube. PlayStation 3. Luckily for me it is the greatest video game system ever. Super Nintendo. Atari 2600 for Xmas 1980. Or 81? I remember playing Pong, Combat, and Missile Command. Yes. I still have it. I think it's in storage. Yes. I still play games. The last game I bought was Red Dead Redemption 2 for PC. I played up to the firefight at the cabin in the introduction and grew frustrated with all the controls just for movement. My wife is only a few years younger than me and plays WoW every day. I was a main healer, but I'm semi-retired now and have been for a few years. The kids play Roblox and Minecraft. I don't really understand the appeal of either, but appreciate they are non-violent. For the most part. Xbox Original. That one block 9,999 inches where it had like 29 different types of games on it. And you could choose a difficulty, but it was really hard to understand WTF the controls meant. Handheld console. Tetris was the first game on it. Then came Block Shooter. And the racing car thing. Sega Genesis. Super Nintendo. The first one that was mine exclusively was an N64 I got for Christmas of 1998. The first one in the house was my dad's NES. Then my older brother got a Sega Genesis for Christmas 1993. Shared a PS1 with my siblings, but the first one that was mine was a GameCube. I saved up and bought it with my own money. I still remember the day I got it and how excited I was.